All right, welcome back everyone. Sorry about the short break here. Appreciate you all being flexible. So the next couple of sessions in our schedule are panel discussions, which I'm really excited for on various topics that are relevant to the work that we all do. And so the way that these are going to be structured is I'm going to do some quick introductions of our speakers for the panel discussions. Then we're going to do some speed talks, where each of the speakers for the panel is going to talk about what they do, give them about 5 to 10 minutes to talk about what they do, and then we'll open it up to Q&A, to a Q&A discussion. And so, for your speed talks, you're welcome to go up to the podium, or you're welcome to stay here and chat from here. So, this first panel is on the topic of housing, caring for, and transporting impounded and relinquished animals. And so as everyone here knows, trying to figure out what do you do with animals coming from a situation of mistreatment or just an emergency situation is a crucial component of what we do, and can often be a huge challenge when we're thinking about both companion animals and livestock. And so what we want to focus on in this panel is what sort of emergency response resources are out there, and we also want to talk about some very successful cases where folks have developed emergency response resources and coordinated efforts to respond to animal-related emergencies. And so we're hoping to learn from the experts here today and figure out how can we draw from all of their experience to develop our emergency response resources to address cases in the future. So without further ado, I'm going to do some introductions here of some of the experts we have on this panel today. The first person who I'd like to introduce is Dan Frazen, who is a retired law enforcement officer with 24 years of service, who began working in emergency management, disaster preparedness, and response during the 2013 Colorado floods. He was previously the emergency manager for the city of Greeley, and he is now the Colorado Department of Agriculture Emergency Response Coordinator as of October 2022, working on all hazard plans to prepare and protect everything agriculture. He leads the CDA's emergency management support team and is working with CSU Extension to create an ag emergency liaison program with farmers, ranchers, producers, and associations across Colorado. So welcome, Dan. Thanks for being here today. Awesome. Fabulous. And our next speaker is Janee Boswell. You all are ordered in the way that I have your introductions. This is amazing, I know. Who's the Director of Education and Partnership for Code 3 Associates, a national training and disaster response organization. She has been in the animal control field for the past 22 years and has extensive knowledge of varied community challenges within animal welfare. She has responded to a variety of man-made and natural disasters, such as the Old Stage wildfire, northern Colorado floods, 4 Mile Fire, and the recent Marshall Fire. Janee is the president of the Animal Welfare Association of Colorado and serves on the Colorado Pet Overpopulation Fund Board, as well as the National Animal Rescue and Sheltering Coalition. So welcome, Janee. Great. And our last panelist here is Ann Walton, who is the Douglas County Emergency Response Coordinator and has managed their animal emergency response for over 12 years. She is currently the chair for the North Central Region Mass Care Committee and oversees the NCR Animal Emergency Subcommittee. She has assisted the state EOC Mass Care 6A desk for animal emergency response, working most recently to support the 2020 fall fires and the Marshall Fire. Through her 15 years at Douglas County, she has cultivated and maintained relationships that have successfully supported animal emergency response on many levels and in many jurisdictions. So thanks so much, Ann, for being here today. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and dive into our speed talks now. And it looks like we are gonna go ahead and start off with Janee.
Okay, can you hear me? I'm gonna try not to like blare you out and all of that. First off, I wanna say thank you so much for having me here. And thank you all for attending. This is like an awesome gathering. This is really incredible. So I'm just gonna go over a little bit about what Code 3 is and what we do. For those of you that don't know what we are and what we do. Who's heard of Code 3? Oh, like almost all of you. Who's had us respond? Awesome. And I have my cool little CHS new family down here that has had me out to go have some fun recently. So Code 3 was actually started in 1985 and was based out of South Lake Tahoe. And it was put together by Nan Stewart, who is still associated with Code 3 right now. But she wanted to start some training for animal control officers, for law enforcement officers, and really wanted to kind of do this dive into animal cruelty, specifically animal cruelty training. So that's kind of how we got started in '85. And then we evolved after the Oklahoma City bombing. Nan decided that she wanted to kind of kick it up a notch and expand out to disaster response and disaster preparedness and training for disasters and all of that sort of thing. So real quick, our training is made up of our essential animal services training, which is like our animal control officers. It's our cruelty investigation type school. So we have modules A, B, and C. If you attend all three of those, then you end up with your animal cruelty investigator certification through CSU. So the majority of all of our classes are all certified through CSU. We do have a few outliers. Some of our online classes haven't been approved through them yet, but the majority of our classes have. So you can take any of these. Has anybody been to our EIA school, our horse school? What'd you think? Did you like it? Yeah. So we have a horse school that we do out in Durango as well. And it's specifically equine investigation for animal cruelty. And it's a week long, actually like 6 days. It's pretty intense. But you live on site in cabins. We feed you all day, and you can go through your week-long academy, and then you can come back. And then the second time, so we hold them in August is level 1, and then May is level 2. Once you get through the level 2, then you're a certified equine investigator. So that's a really cool one if you can. It's kind of expensive, but it's fun. So then we have our disaster response. We're a small team, so Code 3 only has about 4 employees. However, we do have kind of a breadth of fresh faces and hands that we can pull into operations, respond out on disasters, and that are just really good, qualified people. They have like a breadth of knowledge, so we have like veterinarians on our team. We also have like a school teacher that will respond out with us. So we have a guy that like works for NASA, but he loves animal response, so he helps us out too. But we do respond out any natural or man-made disaster. So if you have a cruelty case, we would be happy to come and help you with that. Or if you have a natural disaster, we would be happy to come and help you with that as well. This is Bart. Has anybody seen Bart in person? It's a beast. So it's 82 feet long. And I don't know if this is gonna work. So in the front up there, actually will house 8 people for a week in a zero resource environment. So we have water in there, a shower, a toilet. Those are bunks, if you see those little windows on the sides. And we have a table and a refrigerator and everything. And then in the back, we have like our little briefing area. And it's not gonna show, like right in here. And that's like another room. And then the rest of it is all open. So we can load up our horse trailer and truck and take that across the country if we need to, if we're gonna be running some type of like equine operations. So it's a pretty cool vehicle. It's a beast. And we only have like 2 drivers. So if anybody has their CDL, let me know. We would be happy to have you on board, drag you around the country. So like I was saying, we're happy to respond on cruelty cases, natural disasters. What we try to do is establish an MOU in advance of hopefully an event. So we do have MOUs with like Boulder County, Summit County, Gilpin County, so various jurisdictions throughout the state. And then we, if if we get an official request from you for us to come out, then we can perform in any sort of capacity. So if you need assistance with sheltering or rescue ops or handling animals, whatever that looks like, or even incident command, we're happy to help you. So, and then this past year, so I've only been with Code 3 for like about a year and a half. Before that, I was a contractor. But this past year, we started doing a lot more community events, which was pretty cool. And this was the community event we did at Jefferson County. It was the Colorado Community Disaster Expo. And we also have boats. So if we need to run boat ops, we have three boats that we have. Anyway, we pulled it out, and then we had these kids and mom and dog that hopped on in. And that's all I'm going to mention about Code 3 for the time being. So thank you. I will pass it off to Dan.
All right. I guess the stand by the podium is the preferred. I don't have slides, so we won't steal Ann's slides. So I'm Dan Frazen. I came to the Colorado Department of Agriculture in October, so I'm with the state agency for almost 4 months now. I was hired to kind of consolidate a bunch of emergency management projects throughout the whole department. I live in animal sciences under the animal health under the state veterinarian, but I actually serve the entire department, all 8 divisions. So Bureau of Animal Protection, obviously, in my same division. We wanted to build a department-wide emergency management program that was really robust, and it wasn't just going to be a couple of folks. So I've been very lucky to steal from the other divisions, and we now have an emergency management support team, or what we call EMST, and we have over 20 Department of Ag employees that are going to work with me and kind of support all the different emergency management projects. When it comes to ag, we're very concerned about crops, we're very concerned about animals, especially our rural communities, so that's kind of our focus. We are teaming up with the CSU extension agents and across the state. We also have all of our field inspectors from the various divisions and our brand inspectors. They're kind of our boots on the ground. And what I've asked all those folks to do is just let me know if there's animals in jeopardy or if there's an all hazards emergency that we can try to help support and find resources and just work with and give our expertise. So we're talking about natural disasters, right? We're talking about human-caused disasters, anywhere animals are in jeopardy. We're going to expand an agriculture liaison program. So just kind of give you the overview that I give to everybody when I talk about our new programs. We're going to reach out to farmers, ranchers, producers, and associations and try to get them to volunteer and be a part of meetings with us, trainings, and then when it actually comes to the bad days, disasters, have them be our subject matter experts when it comes to large animals, small animals, those kind of things. So we're working on that right now. I'll be out at the different CART meetings. The Animal Emergency Committee has been good enough from the North Central region to let me come out and talk. I'm going over to the Western Slope to talk to We Care. So we're just going to go out there and we're going to recruit as many folks as we can that really love animals and can help us. My state, I'm trying to look at this from a 30,000 foot perspective. I have to be concerned about the entire state, right? So we're going to look at regional resource lists. We're going to build up these lists. We know that the metro area and the North Central region has a robust, group of folks that are really engaged. They have a lot of equipment when it comes to disaster response to help animals. We're going to go out and we're going to figure out what's in the other regions. I know Northwest is trying to build up some things. The Northeast is working on some grants. Down in the Pueblo area, they have a pretty good system. So I guess that's the thing I ask of all of you is if I don't have you on a resource list that I can sit at the State Emergency Operations Center at the ESF desk or in our future Department Operations Center for smaller emergencies, shoot me an email, give me a call, let me know what you got so I can put you on a list. And I'm looking for all the regular things, right? Animal response teams, the CARTs, the DARTs, the AECs. I'm looking for the experts, the veterinarians that'll respond in disaster, the rescue teams like Code 3 and the humane societies, and then folks with trailers and for evac and transport. You know, I was kind of brainstorming about what I should kind of talk about or what might come up on this panel. And I think what it comes down to is when you all are doing your welfare investigations, if it becomes a bigger deal, and I guess we can go to preparedness too, that's a big part. If you're writing ops plans or you're struggling with an incident action plan for going out and serving a warrant with law enforcement or just doing a big investigation, something with a lot of resources and moving parts, you can always turn to emergency management. I mean, we know plans. We write plans all the time for all kinds of stuff. I was gonna say silly stuff, but I had to correct myself. But you know, continuity plans, emergency operations plans, facility plans, that's really the role of an emergency manager. And it's kind of a misnomer when you say emergency management. I consider myself an emergency manager. I think Ann the same, but we're really that coordinator. We're that support mechanism, right? We wanna get you the stuff that you need. Much of the time it's just logistics. So looking at it from your perspective, if you get to an investigation or if you want to pre-plan an investigation, you need help, reach out to your local emergency managers. Usually they're at the county level. There's some in municipalities, sheriff's offices have them. Really good at planning. And if you don't have that relationship, reach out to me and I'll find that person for you. But also, you know, the problem solving piece, if you get into an actual investigation and things become very complex, or you see that there are resources that are needed that are not in your region, or you just don't know where they're at, reach out to BAP, they'll reach out to me, and we'll try to find that stuff for you. If you don't have that good relationship with your local emergency manager or the emergency manager in the county next door. There's always going to be the unexpected. I think you all have experienced that, right? Anytime you're investigating stuff, dealing with people and animals. So if those things pop up and there are questions, or you think there's an expert out there that we might be able to find and you just haven't found them yet, again, call. I think the best job that I can do to support BAP and all of you is just be that liaison to our other state departments that might have resources to help. And like I said, those local emergency managers, you know, whether they have a list of contacts or resources that we can get to you quick so that you can, you know, do a professional investigation safely and get everything accomplished that you need to. Now, state involvement, I always have to mention this, it's assistance, right? So you're still shouldering the costs and the responsibility and the liability of the investigation and the work. Disasters always start and end local. That's one of our emergency management memes. But animal abuse and neglect, it is a small disaster, and it requires incident stabilization and an all hands on deck approach. So I think the future of our program, like I kind of mentioned, we're going to have a department operations center up at some point with some equipment. So if it's a smaller, you know, large welfare investigation that BAP is involved in, we might be able to set something up and monitor that for y'all as a support mechanism. We're building some response trailers for animal disease right now. I'm sure we can expand that and have other resources available in the future. But most importantly, we are extremely committed, not just my emergency management program or our emergency management program, but the whole department, including BAP, to really building those stronger relationships and partnerships so that there's really good communication across the entire state with all of you guys and the other subject matter experts, the SMEs. So I appreciate the time.
All right. Good morning. Good morning. It's an eye chart. It's okay. Don't worry. You can take a picture. I'm not going to talk to it specifically, but I just want you to know pretty much this is 12 years of my heart's work and passion kind of distilled into one slide, which is always shocking to me. My name again is Ann Walton. It is an absolute great privilege to be here at this extraordinary facility. It is an amazing place. It's been many years in the working, and I'm from Colorado, not originally, but mostly. It's just amazing to see. A little bit about the Animal Emergency Response Program that I run in Douglas County. It is highly collaborative, highly cooperative, and if any of you know me, it's a lot of communication. I do a lot of talking, and the foundation of everything I've built in the last 12 years and my predecessors since Hayman, 2002, has been based on relationships. The relationship aspect of this is the most important part of what I do. I don't just get to play with the animal emergency response. I do a lot of hazardous materials. I do LEPC. I work with vulnerable populations. I work with our mass care, disaster sheltering for humans. There are a million other things that we do in emergency management that I am also responsible for, but this is a summation of 12 years of fun work. I want you to know in Douglas County we have got 4 fairly important relationships. Dumb Friends League, we have an MOU with them. They do our companion animal sheltering and a host of other things in our MOU. The Douglas-Elbert County Horse Council does our non-commercial backyard livestock sheltering. They started out doing a lot of evacuations, but our risk manager said, oh my God, no. So we actually have tied in the Humane Society of the Pikes Peak region, their IGA for animal control with our patrol unit, and we have begged them to help us with evacuations, and they have so nicely said yes over the last few years, and they have been amazing. So those are the 3 main components of my foundation. That's how we respond immediately. Of course, we have our fairgrounds that is just absolutely stunning and amazing, except during fair, which is another problem, but I won't even go into that. We also have an MOU with American Humane. That is obviously a national organization. We happen to have Josh Carey, who lives in Douglas County, and I am not opposed to ever calling that guy and always pray that he is home when I'm needing him. That lends us to the National Animal Response and Sheltering Coalition. That gives us a lot of leeway into a national organization, a bunch of national organizations, including Code 3, including ASPCA. But that is the one thing I've been envisioning for 10 years now, is the state, we really do need at the state level to have that kind of an MOU. It would help a ton when it's a last minute, and most of our responses are last minute. We don't have the luxury of planning, but we do need to work on that. A couple of other things that I want to highlight. Veterinary Medical Reserve Corps. We have used them before. Black Forest Fire, we had 600 and some odd animals out at Elbert County, about 100 total in Douglas County, and then of course we had things scattered all over the place. They are an incredible resource, but they don't come necessarily with equipment, but we will utilize them. We are pretty strong here in the North Central region. As far as animal emergency response, we play a lot of games with each other. We're always calling Carla. We're always calling Sarah. Generally speaking, Adams County is involved. We go all the way up to Weld County, Larimer County. I'm not opposed to calling El Paso. They're not in our region, but we're going to call whoever we need because if it is a huge response, and it's impacting many counties, like 2013 floods, we're going to need help from outside. Obviously, public health, state vet, Colorado Ag Department. Well, that state coordinating group kind of looks funny, but that's okay. The state coordinating group, I have had an mystery. I've envisioned us working pretty closely together. I work closely with the Southeast region, North Central region. I know a lot of emergency managers all over the state. This will come as no surprise. I'm a relationship-oriented, and honestly, if you guys don't know your emergency managers, you can call me too, because I know a lot of them as well. Sometimes they run, but mostly they do take my calls. I do, on occasion, work at the state Emergency Support Function 6A desk. Poor Dan is going to be stuck with me. I've been there for many years. We've been playing. But I intend, and my director, Deborah Schnockenberg, is continuing the mission of supporting our support to the state whenever that is needed, most recently the Marshall Fire. Obviously, federal support is super important. I wanted to go over very lightly about what our Emergency Operations Center is capable of doing. That's sort of a place. Emergency management is a human, generally humans. We do a lot of support for the incident command in the field, and this is for all hazards. We do helicopters that go down, we do officer-involved shootings, we could do animal cruelty cases, we do a lot of wildland fires, we do a lot of blizzards, which is lots of fun too. We would do it through an incident support plan and would provide a lot of situational awareness, consequence management, making sure that we are leaning forward 12 hours. That's something Incident Command should not have to worry about. This is what we do, and this is how we do it in Douglas County. Want to make sure that you guys are supported, shelter, feed, and care for animals, including veterinary care. We are pretty heavy on equipment and supplies. We also are very heavy on personnel support. We want to make sure that you guys are cared for in the field if you are under our care. I do biscuits and gravy every time we have a blizzard activation, so that's going to be kind of an indication of how well we're going to take care of you in the field. We will provide security at every one of our shelters. We have $200 cutting horses that come into our shelters, and we have those $100,000 master jumper things that come in that are really, really pretty to look at. So we do have deputies on security at every one of our shelter locations. We are capable of coordinating with decontamination for animals. Thank you, Code 3 and Garrett. Donation and volunteer management, that also happens in the Emergency Operations Center. We don't want to get run over out in the field by a bunch of volunteers just showing up randomly, which they always do, and the donations can become a disaster within a disaster. Obviously, we're investigation support, social media monitoring, which can also be kind of an exciting time, unmet needs, and then of course that consequence management. So I guess if I had one word that I could distill down into what I feel I do as far as emergency management and my animal emergency response program, I am sort of the glue. I will find you what you need. We are hopped up really big on logistics. I have about a 12-man team, 12-human team, I should say. And we are pretty devoted to making sure that we're caring for our folks in the field. So that is it.
Great. Well, thank you all for those speed talks. Very informative, and you all are a wealth of knowledge and information and resources for emergency response. So it's so great to have you here. So I'm going to start our Q&A off with one question for you all, and then I'm going to open it up to the whole audience here for our next 20 minutes or so. So my question for you all is, say we have a BAP agent or a law enforcement officer working in a jurisdiction where there's not already kind of this well-developed emergency response program for their jurisdiction. What are 1 to 2 first steps you would suggest that they take to prepare for a potential cruelty or animal care disaster moving forward? So what would be the first couple things you suggest they do? Because it can seem really, really daunting and really overwhelming to figure out where to start.
Just because I'm closest, right? Something we always say is don't exchange business cards on the day of the incident. And I'm looking at your investigation, especially if they get big and they get complex as incidents. So build those relationships way ahead of time. If you think you might need that help from the local fire chief or the local emergency manager or the sheriff's office, and a lot of you have already, I'm speaking to the choir here, you've already built those great relationships. But if you haven't, or if you're in the more rural areas where maybe it's just the sheriff and undersheriff, right? Go have coffee with them way before, in those blue sky days, not when things are really bad, disaster or investigation-wise.
Absolutely. I think it's so important that we network, and I mean, you guys are all doing that here and now, and it's awesome. But really important that you network and you contact others and that you have those relationships developed so you know who you can rely upon. I would also say make sure that you have some resources of your own that are established. So, know what's in your community. Do you have a lot of dogs? Do you have a lot of horses? Do you have maybe some crazy reptile person that has, 50,000 reptiles in a building? But get out there and find out what's in your community, and then start thinking about where would you be able to house all these animals? Do you have those relationships developed? So if you do have to do a big impound of equines, can you take it to the local livestock facility? Do you have some other rescue that you can utilize? I think, one of the things that we see frequently is that jurisdictions, one, wait too long to ask for help because it does take time to get people motivated. And for two, you really have to have a plan in place before you react. I mean, it's great to do an investigation, but make sure that you have all those other steps in place before you pull the trigger.
I'll just go back to, it's a relationship-oriented field, and most emergency managers don't bite, so feel free to reach out to us. Sometimes people get intimidated by the name, and it may be not the director level. I'm at the coordinator level, which is wonderful to work at because I can say yes probably much faster than my director can say yes. So get to know the humans that are kind of the support mechanisms. And I know there are just one human shops throughout the state of Colorado. That goes back to kind of a region. If you go to the San Luis Valley, they work really collaboratively well together. Their emergency management program is very relationship-centric, and there is a lot more there than you might suspect. So just get to know us. We don't bite. Maybe too hard.
I guess one quick follow-up to that is you all were talking about potential, for example, an equine impound. A lot of the requests that we get here at the BAP from local law enforcement is, where might we be able to take livestock, especially relinquished livestock, and what sort of facilities exist out there. And so I'm curious to hear, what sort of facilities law enforcement might go to if they have a potential case or relinquishment involving livestock. What are some examples of places they might look?
Yeah, I think short term we always think of our fairgrounds, all the various counties and the state fairground down in Pueblo. But yeah, building those relationships with folks, producers in the private sector is super important. I know during the mudslides a couple of years ago in Larimer County, in the Cameron Peak burn scar, we were having to think very quickly of where to put cattle and some things that needed to come out of the canyon. And it was stockyards and private organizations that we're reaching out to. The associations for livestock in this state are excellent. We have a great relationship with them. The Colorado Livestock Association, the Colorado Cattlemen's Association, the Farmers Union, Rocky Mountain Farmers Union. Dr. Baldwin has built that relationship, and we're going to continue. In fact, during these recent severe winter weather events out in the eastern part of the state, where they're getting huge drifts and 30-mile-per-hour winds with, snow squalls and the negative temperatures and everything. These associations are calling me and saying, hey, is there anywhere that needs help? We got to get, cattle trucks off the road due to federal law, but we also, need to look out for the welfare of all kinds of animals. So yeah, those private relationships are huge, and those associations are really awesome. And if any of you ever want to go to those meetings, I get invited now often, so you're welcome to tag along and meet some folks.
I would just say Harmony Equine. All your horses can go there. No, I would just reiterate, make sure that you're starting to develop those relationships, and if you can get out there and have those conversations with some ranchers and farmers, and establish something where you have some trusted connection with them and can utilize them, and then let us all know so that we can use them too. Did you have anything to?
So Harmony, that I would move mountains to help them. I just want you all to know that that is in my county, Franktownish area, and it's hugely important. We actually do, obviously our fairgrounds is going to be our primary large animal, livestock-y, even companion animal location for sheltering, but we also we're blessed with a lot of really great open space areas, and we own them. And I always curl the open space human's hair because I say, I'm going to use your crown jewel sandstone ranch because it's got panels set up. It is not going to be pretty. It will be exposed. They'll be out in the weather, but at the same time, we will use whatever we've got. And if I have to go build oodles of panels, we're prepared to do that. We'll steal them from the fairgrounds. If they're having fair, we'll go to another fairgrounds. We'll go to Elbert County. That's fairly local to us. But there is a lot of horse trading that goes along when you're looking at finding a shelter for, and usually it's the livestock that we have the biggest challenges with. It's, you know, you can't take your big horse to the backyard of somebody in Highlands Ranch. So our open spaces are really a big foundation for the backup.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for those comprehensive answers. I want to open things up to questions from the audience. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this one here. Hopefully this works. No? Yeah. Whoop! Okay. And see if anyone has questions. And actually, Taylor, I'm going to nominate you to run around and see who has questions, if you're up for it. Got my workout for the day.
Okay, I got you.
All right.
What do I do if there's no questions?
No questions? We're going to go to lunch? Is that what we're ready?
Or anyone, so I can give everyone a minute to think about questions, but also if anyone has experiences too of dealing with some of these large-scale emergency situations and some lessons that you've learned from some of those experiences, I'm sure we can talk about some lessons learned too from our own experiences as well. Anyone have anything to share? Questions, comments? Yeah. Okay. Fabulous. I thought you might have some some stories to share.
Stories? We're going to share stories. No.
I just have a question. So how do you guys, I guess our cart team struggles a little bit. It's sort of, we had it good and then it kind of fell down a little bit. And now we're trying to build it back up again. We're struggling with logistics of transport. So we got all these animals transported to up in Weld County. We have a place that can take several. But organization as far as tagging, do we need a vet there? Do we not need a vet there? Do we need a brand inspector there? Some say yes, some say not. Things of that nature, once we get the animals in a place to put them, now what?
We've done, okay. Well, we've done that a lot. What county? I'm sorry.
Weld County.
Okay, sorry about that. Yes, I work with, is it David up there in Weld County? Anyway, yes, you have a whole lot of logistics on the back end of saying, okay, we found this wonderful place to land all these things. From a brand inspection standpoint, we won't let any animals that are under the brand inspection, and that would be what? Horses, cattle, sheep if asked, donkeys, mules. Am I getting it? Did I get it right? Anyway, we would have a brand inspector there that would say, yeah, you can take that with you because you are matched up. Same with, dogs. Cats, DFL is really great about associating humans with their pets. The kicker is when we get into somebody else has brought the animal in because they picked him up on the road, and I get those. Those are a little bit one-offs. Then you have the food. Then you have the people who care for it, and that's where, say, I'm going to keep focused on DECHEC, Douglas Elbert County Horse Council. They come in and feed. They come in and care if the owners are not available, and sometimes they're a little busy worrying about other things. It is a process. It's a development process. It doesn't happen. Just add water. I mean, you have to cultivate it. And I know that 12 years ago when I started doing what I do, I didn't have a lot of things in place. Also know that you have other counties in your area Larimer, I mean, Adams County, those north end, Boulder County. I mean, we'll send folks from Douglas. We are really hopped up on help, but realistically, if you need help immediately, I mean, we can help you in 12 hours, but immediately you're going to want to do it local, and it does take a while. Yeah, and Jefferson County, am I allowed to say that? Missy? We all have them, I think. And I think that is really a great way of starting a cart, is to look and see what other carts are doing. Gilpin County, you know, they're sort of regenerating, reconstituting. I know that they have now an MOU with Code 3. I mean, those are those things that you get these little stutter steps. You feel like, okay, that's not much, but it is a lot when you look at response. If you've got a Code 3 behind you or an American Humane behind you, besides your other little teams, and Jeffco has got like the teams. They are the premier. So yeah, we're happy to share, and I'll bug Carla about that.
And for Weld County specifically, we do have a tabletop exercise on the books. It's going to be a combined exercise in May to try to get Larimer and Weld to work closer together and to reinvigorate the Weld program. So Shane and some of those folks, Dave Burns over at Emergency Management, for you guys, we're getting that planned, and we'll get you involved as soon as possible. So, but hopefully that will. I know it's just probably getting the leadership. I know there's been a lot of changes above y'all, so just getting the leadership back in, and then using some great examples from some really successful programs. And you're not the only ones. A lot of these, when people have day jobs and when people are volunteering some time, and you know, posses come and go. I'm not changing the inflection in my voice, but yeah, so you're not the only ones. I know right now Moffat County's trying to build up back their cart program for large animal stuff, and like I mentioned in my little short talk, you know, the Northeast region is looking at grants, and so yeah, you're not the only ones, and I think we can all work together. So, but there are some great examples out there.
Chris, I'm wondering really quickly, Chris Whitney, did you have anything to add on brand inspection and these emergencies?
Not really, just there's no requirement under our statute or regs to have a brand inspector in those circumstances, because you're not, hopefully, looking at a change of ownership, unless it's involuntary, or transporting animals, but the brand inspectors are happy to do that, and they do. Terry Short's very active, Dan Moody's very active, so in Jefferson County, we cover as well, working with Carla and crew. So the brand inspector is there to help the owners to pair them up with their animals.
Great, thank you. All right, you can run, Taylor. Thanks.
Jenny wanted me to ask a question, so I'm going to. I think something a little more focused on what we do with animal welfare and animal cruelty investigations when we go out on these large collection cases. Is this something like an emergency shelter? Is that something you guys can help with, that piece? Or is yours specific to disasters? Because I think that's a big problem that we have when we have these big impounds, is we have nowhere to hold them. Well, at least I can speak for my crew. It's a big problem. And there's like that 10-day, if you're doing the cost of care, where it would be like a 10-day emergency. Anne's giving me the, yeah, I'm going to tell you bad news. But I figured that might be a good question to ask for the good of the group.
It is a great question, and you know I would do anything for you. So I will caveat this with, so Anne says yes to everything she can say yes to, and Deborah kind of keeps me from going gallivanting off into the clouds. We have talked about this. If you have hit your threshold at Harmony and you have no other alternatives that you can't send off to another location, we can help. And we, Small animals, I hate to say, I think for us, small animals are easier than the non-commercial backyard livestock or the evidence livestock. And yes, we would be able to discuss it. We would discuss it amongst ourselves in emergency management, but you all would be part of that discussion. And I think, and philosophically, I know that we would try very hard to say yes. And I know pre-Harmony, we were holding animals at our fairgrounds. We were holding evidence at our fairgrounds, and we had staff that were feeding them, and we were getting the food in for them. So is it possible? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason for you to suffer and wonder. Yes, is my answer. Because Ann says yes all the time.
And I would say yes, and we have other partners. I mean, the NARSC group is great, and one of our partners in NARSC is Greater Good. And we have called them in, and they have been called in on many cases, HSUS, ASPCA, and we do have that connection with them that we could call them in and say, hey, we need some sheltering of small animals, of large animals. They generally specialize in small animals. But yeah, I mean, we've gone in, taken over a warehouse, set up a shelter like that, and impounded 200 animals. So absolutely, that would be feasible.
Well, last question.
I have a question kind of to trickle off of what Bobby said. For Code 3.8, several questions. One, do you need an MOU for you guys to come out and help?
So for the disaster response, we would want an MOU before we ever deploy. For cruelty investigations, the way that we've been working it is that if I get an official request, like an email that says, hey, can you come and help, then we can deploy with that.
Okay, I was thinking more along the lines of like wildland fires, because that's what Park County is known for. And I didn't know if it like...
Yeah, let's sign an MOU.
Say what?
I said, let's sign an MOU.
All right.
Yeah, and really it's not, everybody always thinks like it's this big, mysterious deal, and it's really not. I mean, we have a standard MOU that we put in place, and what it says is once we receive an official request from Incident Command or whoever is running your event, then we'll come out, we'll compile teams and come out and assist.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
I have a question also for Code 3 in reference to the MOU. Is that something you have with, the agency or the organization, or is that at the county level that you have to have the MOU and only get respond after Incident Command is requesting that?
So we have both where we actually will have it with the county. Like for example, Boulder County and their emergency manager actually signed that MOU, so they could request us. Or we've also had MOUs with HSPPR, and so they call us and say, hey, we need some assistance, and we respond out with them.
Do you charge, Janee?
We do not. We would love to recoup the cost of fuel, but we do not charge. And just remember, you get what you pay for.
Okay, maybe we will go ahead and wrap things up here. But one thing I'm gonna steal this. Oh God, I keep doing that. Sorry, keeping everyone awake. But I think one of the key takeaways that I'm hearing from these talks and from this Q&A is, talk to these 3 folks and build relationships with them, and so that they can assist and help you with emergency planning in your community. There's just a couple other things that I want to note that we're working on within the BAP. As I mentioned yesterday, we're working on developing a database of facilities that can house livestock and horses, and so we'll be reaching out to BAP agents to help us build that database of facilities. We'll be reaching out to you 3 for your help with building that database, and our hope is that can be available for law enforcement moving forward. And then another thing, we had some interns working with us over the summer, and they may have reached out to some of you and asked for some information, and we developed a map from the work of the interns on animal response teams throughout the state. And so this map is available on our website now, on the Bureau of Animal Protection website, at that address there, and so at Resources for Law Enforcement. And so please do use it. It's by no means comprehensive of everyone who's out there, but it's a start, and so we hope you can use this as a resource for finding help with animal response in your community. So I want to do one last round of applause for our panel here. Thank you so much. And we will go ahead and take 5 minutes, and then we will transition right after that at 11:10 to start our next panel. And our next panel topic will be on addressing the link between animal and human mistreatment. And we have quite a few panelists for that.